Greetings, Louis. Wonderful to see you here across the world.
Hi Gary, how are you?
I'm good. For those
Nice.
of you who are watching and listening, please know that Louis and I have known each other for about 45, 50 years in New York, where that's my birthplace, my home originally. And now I'm way off grid in Australia. And Louis has had, as I have, such a lifestyle on self-improvement and personal development that now it's time to take it to a new level. And I'm here to interview you, Louis, about just how that's developed over your life and what you would most want to share with those listening and watching. Yes.
Thanks, Gary, and hi everybody who's watching. I appreciate you spending time with us. My life now is about paying it forward. The idea that if you're abundant enough and you have your fundamental needs met, you can really just spend all your time serving others and giving back. And so what I decided to do after a life of great success and struggle, but great success, is create a course called the Self-Improvement Lifestyle. And that is a course designed to give people motivation, inspiration, and transformation in terms of how they set up their daily life to maximize their potential, to have more meaning, more purpose, and to be happier. And what I want to do in short that's important here is, people don't need a course to get information. I mean, you can go on Wikipedia or Google and get all the information that you need. But when you're really playing at a big level, it's very, very hard to do that without a mentor or a guide. And that's the role I want to play.
Excellent. Well, you certainly are a mentor and a guide. Your email address itself, what your Louis coaches at gmail.com, is that right?
It's asklewis.com is sort of the portal to a million things that I do. It's not a portal to a course or stuff like that, but people do contact me directly because I have an email at lewiscoaches@gmail.com. And I have lots of self-improvement groups and mystic Taoism groups and Eastern mystic groups and communities. I have a lot of different communities, game theory, strategic thinking. So a lot of people, they say that you could have a lot of different streams flowing into one ocean. And I'm that ADHD kid, from 50 years ago who did well. I'm a writer and I had a radio talk show on NPR, and I've had a lot of books published, and I do marriage counseling and coaching. So I have a lot of stuff going on, and they're all under the heading of self-improvement. And so asklewis.com is the primary portal that goes to everything.
That's your website.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get to that at the end because we want to have people know how to reach you. But as we're just beginning and starting off on our journey, so to speak, into the open ocean of ideas and possibilities, I want to say, to acknowledge you, how impressed I am in how you developed, along with all that you just mentioned, all the books you've written, all the amazing amount of information that you've collated, collected, and put in a way that you seem to have resources and knowledge and wisdom that you've been able to coalesce on almost any subject. And so asklewis.com is really appropriate. In diving deeper with you, for those that are listening and wondering, well, I wonder if having a course with Louis would be really advantageous to me. Give us a little bit of an example or soundbite of what would happen as people enter the course, whether there's an introductory session that people can make a decision around, or they need to jump in. What would they physically be experiencing?
Yeah, well, this is the introduction in a sense. What we're doing right now, it's a webinar of sorts or a podcast, an interview, we want to call it. But what happens is there's three questions I always ask people. Do you want to have greater freedom in your life? Do you want to have more meaning in your life? People are happy, but they don't have any meaning. And so as they get older, they realize, they've been happy, but what's the purpose? So people need to have some sense of meaning. And working with someone like me really is a process of, there's an old saying about Michelangelo, how do you carve a horse? He said, give me a block of marble and I will remove everything that's not a horse. And what will be left with is a horse. So for me, the process is to simplify for somebody. And the very first question that they need to ask is, what is their desired outcome? Oh, you and I are talking right now. What's our desired outcome? You can see my wife, that's my wife back there. Why is she my wife? Why does she want to be married to me? Why am I married to her? Why do I do the job that I do? Why am I doing this? Well, there's a desired outcome. So most people go through lives, but if you ask them what is their passion or what is their desired outcome, they really couldn't tell you. So that's
Okay.
why, yeah.
So with that in mind, it would make a lot of sense for me as a prospective joining your courser,
Sure.
that I would like to know how you can unpack those three questions. For example, freedom, meaning, desired outcome, one at a time. So that you'd say, okay, in the area of freedom, here's an exercise I like to take people through. Here's a bit of the journey that I navigate people through. So we can have a bit more of a feeling of the actual journey itself. You can map it out a bit for us, please.
So, what is meaning? Well, the expert on that is someone named Viktor Frankl. And Frankl was a psychiatrist who was in Auschwitz, during the Second World War. And he interviewed a lot of people who were going to be executed, gassed. And he found that people who had meaning in their life went to their death with less fear and more contentment, even though they knew the end was coming, as opposed to someone who did not. So I can't tell somebody what their meaning in their life should be, because it's not a one size fits all. But on a personalized level, if someone says to me they want to have a big house and a lot of money and a car and a beautiful wife, I know that's not a meaningful life. I know it's not. And I'm not going to say to somebody, that's not a meaningful life. I wouldn't do that to somebody. But I would ask them questions about, why is that a meaningful life to you? Like, what does that mean? Where is the happiness in that? And there are times as a mentor where I may put my 2 cents in, and I can tell you having a fast car is short-term gratification. And I'm not going to knock short-term gratification. I like an ice cream cone now and then. But that when people put all of their emotional, physical, spiritual, and mental energy into some type of short-term gratification, it's likely that they're going to end up unhappy and discontented. So there is a process where I can guide somebody through to be more. This is called PEEPASA. I want to spell it PEEPPASA. PEEPASA. And PEEPASA stands for, is it practical? There's this thing that somebody wants to do in their life. Is it practical? And then is it effective? Is it efficient? Is it precise? Is it productive? Is it accurate? And is it self-aware? If it's not self-aware, you can be like a machine and have, practicality and effectiveness and efficiency and productivity and precision, but you're not going to be self-aware. And that if you're not self-aware, you're not going to have meaning.
All right. So with this PEEPASA example, would you guide us now just briefly through a specific instance that you can see in the movie screen of your mind where someone had a turnaround using this PEEPASA tool that you are describing?
Yeah, I had a fellow who was interested in power and influence. And he didn't really know why. He was a wealthy person, and they had hired me. This is prior to the course itself. This is to coach them. They had hired me, and we got into a conversation about did their life have meaning? And they're always paranoid that someone was trying to take over their territory, so to speak. They were zero sum players. Zero sum is where you think that you need to win and everybody else has to lose. And I showed them by simplifying their life, by becoming a philanthropist and making a difference in the world, And also by seeing what their needs were rather than just their wants, that they could be have a simple life, a minimalist life, a fulfilling life, and be very content and very happy and make a difference in other people's lives. So that's one of the people. I've worked with a lot of people like that. But if I'm working with someone who's not wealthy, let's say someone just takes my course and maybe they're stretching their money a little bit to pay for a course. What I show them is that they may be spending their money in things in their lives that are not really that fulfilling, and that it's easier to simplify. I'm going to tell you what simplifying looks like in my own life. I make my own kombucha. I make my own yogurt. I make my own bread. I have the time to do that. People say, I don't have enough time. Well, people don't have enough time because they're focusing on short-term gratification as opposed to what their fundamental needs are. So one of the first things I ask people, aside from what is the meaning in their life, is I ask them to take a yellow pad, draw a line down the middle, on the left side, write down what do they want, on the right side, what do they need? And that's a Zen concept, by the way. People throw the word Zen around all the time. But honestly, most people, if they're not focusing on what their needs are as opposed to their wants, they're going to suffer unnecessarily. That's why people suffer unnecessarily, is they focus on want instead of need.
This is very helpful, Lewis. And as people who are, again, watching and listening to this intro here today, it would be very useful as well for people to know what it is that in the journey of guiding these folks to discover their meaning, their freedom, their passion, their purpose, and to take steps towards that desired outcome, what else you can provide that they take away in this navigated journey, please?
Yes, it's well, one thing that's important is the structure. So it's 5 modules. And each module has 3 parts to it. One part is a video of me doing ideas, transformational ideas, not inspiring or motivating, but what we just talked about a little bit. What is a want? What is a need? How to define short-term gratification? How to be mindful? So that's one part of each module. The second part is a written lesson, for lack of a better term. Not very long, something that can be read in maybe 5 or 10 minutes, but it lays out a concept. What is happiness, or how to organize your day, how to design a routine. I do a lot of recommendations with movies, because interestingly, if they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. Well, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, what's the value of an hour and a half of moving pictures to help somebody understand the nature of what they're doing and how they want to do it? So I use a lot of film, and I also use films of visionaries. So it's not just movies of me, it may be TED Talks, and maybe documentaries, things that will make people ponder and take notes and learn lessons about what they need to do and how they need to go about doing it. And then the third part is assessment, so they can actually assess their own process. Now, I don't do any actual coaching in that first part. We save that towards the end. And people, the first 5 weeks, the first 4.5 weeks or so is fairly structured, because people need to have the foundation of PIPASA. You know, what does practicality mean? What does effectiveness mean? What does efficiency mean? How do you do that? How do you organize that? How do you create that? How do you design a daily routine? But once they have that, then as they're flowing freely, they're going to eventually hit into some obstacles. And the obstacles they're going to run into usually is their own emotional baggage or their own insanity. You know, the old saying, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So a lot of what this course is about is designed not to challenge people. We don't do 5-day challenges or stuff like that, or flash checks to them, you know, about all the money that got made. None of that stuff. It's about a personal journey that person has to create for themselves. And now they're in uncharted territory. So when they're in that area of the 4th or 5th week, now it's going to be a little, well, I'm not going to say scary, a little unstable, like walking on a tightrope a little bit. And that's where the mentoring comes in and is so important that I can guide them on that level to see what the difference is between a goal and a vision, to see the idea of Wu Wei, which is a Taoist concept of the action that has no action, a little bit like the law of attraction, without the fluffy stuff. That the more you're in line with the flow of nature, the less you need to struggle to get where you need to go.
Mhm. Well, this is fascinating. So you just shared with us all a 5-part sequence that takes people through 5 weeks and brings them to a place of taking home a desired outcome.
Yes.
Is all of this online in a way that people do not or have the opportunity or option of also engaging with you for personal mentoring if they wish to go deeper?
They can email me during the first 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So having a conversation like you and I having right now, after the initial conversation. So before they begin, they can call me on the phone and say, Louis, tell me about this wrong with that. We do that. But once they're on the path, they're going to email me and I'm going to respond to them by email. And also what's going to happen is they're going to focus on areas that are specific for them. So they may want to focus on being an artist, or they may want to focus on being a business person. They may want to focus on their relationship and their marriage. They might want to focus with gender issues and sexuality issues and political issues. Who knows? I'm all over the place. So,
well, this is very helpful. When I do my presentation coaching, and a lot of that's now online since the online Zooming experience is entered in, and a lot of us are forced into isolation, but now even more chance to connect with more people all around the world. One of the questions I always ask people who are in a position like you, ready to make a presentation, whether live or recorded, is this following question. If you put yourself right now, as you put yourself right now, in the mindset, in the body, in the wisdom, in the challenges and the concerns and the doubts and the fears and the full dynamic of any one of these potential students who take this course, what questions are the most difficult and the most popular questions that you can feel they would be asking themselves right now, whether this course is for me? What are those questions? Please.
The first one would be, why do I need a mentor? I mean, I can do this on my own. I'm smart. I'm talented. I mean, who are you? What makes you so smart that you're going to be my mentor? So that's one challenge.
And how would you answer that question?
Well, I get a little aggressive, actually. I say, well, I had a radio show that had 1 million listeners. You ever have one? I have 20 books published, not self-published, with major publishers, Random House, Simon & Schuster. Have you? I'm married 25 years, to someone from a different religion, a different culture, different race, a tough broad, so to speak, not to use the word broad. Lily, say hi, wave to the screen, Lily. That's my wife. So I know what it's like to be married for 25 years. And slug it out a little bit. I don't mean physically slug it out, but my wife has a strong ego and I have a strong ego, as humble as we both are. So I think you're not going to climb Mount Everest unless you have a Sherpa. It ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. I'm aggressive in that way. And if you're going to do something beyond just that woo-woo, tree hugging, I'm channeling Jesus and Cleopatra. I'm not making fun of that. But I'm just saying, if you're going to go beyond superficial new age inquiry, you're going to have a mentor. And Excellent. It has to be someone who's gone bare to the bone. And I've been bare to the bone.
Right. So this is great because you've taken us towards the end of this interview here today. The first point that you made about having a mentor and a coach. So this is great that we have the first point connect with the last point. If you could summarize now, one of my favorite presentation coaching tools is called the 5S principle, and now share everything that you've shared with us during this time in the shortest, strongest simplest specific statement, 5S, what would you say in the fewest words as we move towards closing this beautiful introduction to your work?
It's the nature of human beings to learn and to educate themselves. In order to do that, you need to be motivated and inspired, and that you can do collaboratively with peers. You are going to reach a point where you're in a transformative state, not motivational, not inspirational, not informational, transformational, where you have to actually change your entire way of thinking in order to cross the boundary, to get down the portal, to go through the wormhole, to transcend the emotional things that are going to block you. And this course, this 6-week course, is the easiest way to do that. Someone asked me once, what is the shortcut beyond meditation? I said, meditation is the shortcut. Yes. And so the key is to begin the journey, commit to it with intention. And then what my course does, it brings the process in so you can get to the desired outcome at the end.
Excellent. You said so much in this session. And again, if you were to say everything that you said and what you leave us with now in the fewest words, what would you say?
Call me. Send me an email and say to lewiscoaches@gmail.com. There's no fancy calendars and no automated stuff, no chat bot nonsense. It's a personal process between teacher and student, not master and disciple, teacher and student. And
Yes.
And everybody has a need, and I want to find out what your need is. And the way to do that is to have a 20-25-minute conversation.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your time, Lewis. Certainly, you have so much to share with those who, like myself, would be absolutely moved by your depth of knowledge, wisdom, sensitivity, and your tremendous ability to articulate that to transform lives.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.